What's up guys, how's it going? Today, I'm going to be showing you how to wrap the interior trim on your car. Today, I'm specifically doing it on my E90. So, there's multiple reasons you would want to wrap your trim. My main reason is, I have nothing against it. Personally, I kind of like it, but the wood grain, especially what I have here, makes it look a little bit outdated. And also, if your trim isn't in the best condition, there is a crack here that doesn't really make a noticeable surface difference, but does make a bit of a visible difference. It'll just clean it up, and I'm going on this build for an all black look on the interior, so this will help achieve that. So let's go over what you're going to need to wrap the trim on your car. Alright, so what you're going to need first is your film. So again, I have this carbon fiber style vinyl. It's like flat, so it's not glossy, and it has texture. This is from Vivid, capital V, capital V-I, capital V-I, capital D. And I know that they've made, I've heard, good exterior car wraps, so that's who I'm going with. Price seemed pretty competitive. And to determine how much you'll need, you'll literally just measure all the surfaces in your car that you want to wrap. And I believe this is a 5 foot by, I don't know how many feet, wrap. So this is the longest piece of trim in my car. And then the center console. And then also on the doors, it goes pretty far. So I think I should have enough based on the width. I think I have maybe 2 or 3 links that long to do so. That's the first thing you're going to need. Second thing, very important, is a heat gun. So when you heat up the wrap, it makes it stretchy, so you can stretch around corners that it would normally fold or crease on if you didn't use heat. And it will also help get the adhesive nice and sticky, so it will stay once you have laid it. Also, you're going to need either a scissors, kind of works, but I would recommend an X-Acto blade, something like this, to allow for precise cutting on edges. Third is a trim pry tool. Normally I'd use vinyl, but I don't have mine here, so I'm going to be using one like this. This is specifically to remove plastic rivets. So I'm just going to be using microfiber along with this to make sure that I don't damage anything. And that's the next thing you're going to need. And just know that the processes I'm going to be showing you are specifically for the E90. There may be other things that you need for your car, like if you need to unscrew any panels. So this should be a decent guide on the overview of how to do it. Let's begin. So in this E90, the first part I'm going to remove is this here. We also have a small section on the left side of the dash. And the main thing I need to be careful of is this start button, as it is wired. So all I'm going to do to keep everything kind of safe, I suppose, is use a microfiber, and I'm just going to wrap this tool in it. And it looks like for me, it's going to be easier to start on this side here, actually. Looks like there's a bit of gap. And most of it you can just get with your hands. So if you are also on an E90, there's going to be 2 tabs to pull that cable out of there. Then there is going to be wiring behind here also. So you're just going to need to pull that out. So you can have 2 connections behind there. And this whole piece comes off, and then you'll see there will be a few 8mm, it looks like, that I need to remove to actually be able to get around these vents. And then these plastic things are prone to popping out, but as long as they're not broken, you just stick them right back in. Alright, then there's just going to be a small section to the left of the steering wheel, and that door panel, and then the rear ones if you have an E90. So I was taking the vents off here, and I had quite a bit of difficulty with this one and the other small one, so I'd like to show you how to do it. So this tabs under here, and there's actually small tabs in here which you need to pry out first. I thought that I needed to somehow like slide back there and then do whatever, but get these tabs first and then probably these and the rest will follow. And then you just lift up and slide out like that. All right, now there's a couple things that we have to do first. First thing I'm going to do is just wipe off the trim. You might be able to see here, just even if it doesn't look physically dirty, to get any oils from your fingers or any residue or small flakes of whatever it may be. So you're going to want to just wipe it off like that. And then make sure it is thoroughly dry so that the adhesive on the back of your vinyl will stick. Alright, and now with that, I'm going to get my heat gun ready. And then also measure out how much wrap I'm going to need. And you'll hear that has a bit of texture, and it is a sort of matte finish, which I really like and personally like better than gloss carbon fiber. Alright, so here we go. First thing you're going to do is just measure. I'm going to do the length first. And I like to give myself some extra room for mistakes and just to make sure that I have enough to pull on to properly stretch the material. So I'm going to give myself maybe an extra couple inches. So I'm going to cut it this way first. Alright. And then you're going to measure the height. And again, I like to give myself a bit of extra room. So we have kind of an edge on the top, not much on the bottom. So I'm going to give myself probably that much. There we go. It did go a bit thin on the end here, but looks like we'll be alright. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is lay the carbon fiber onto the trim. So I'm just going to make sure that it's lined up properly, and then I'm going to start at one end and go to the other. So again, I did cut a bit thin on one side, so I'm going to start on that side so I have it lined up. And even if there's contours, you're just going to want to do it flat and make sure then they give yourself enough room on the edges. And then you can kind of just roll it on like this. Doesn't matter if there's bubbles really right now either. Alternatively, what you can do is actually set the piece down, and then lay it on. Alright, so with your sheet of vinyl lined up, the next thing I'm going to do is cut out the vents. What I'm actually going to do is do sort of an X shape so that you have these flaps, so you do have extra where you need it. Just kind of a rough shape, and so then you can pull those back also. Now, I'm going to start heating. So what you're going to want to do is pick which end you want to start on. I'm going to start on this end, and you can see I have a nice kind of flat surface almost already here. Looks like I do need to cut this out a bit. And as we stretch, we can then cut. So again, I've got this nice flat surface right here, which we're going to start with, and I'm just going to start pulling around the edge here. You can see that around corners, it's going to kind of buckle like this. So what you can do, if you can't stretch it, you can actually cut like a slit and overlap. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you need to, you can. So let's start heating, and as a general rule, you want to keep it low and always moving and kind of far away. So let's start it here. So we can see how pliable this is. So like instantly becomes soft. So if you just heat it a little bit, you have a decent amount of time to actually start stretching it. So you'll see I got this curve here. Now I'm just going to stretch it away like that so it bends around this corner. This will slightly distort the pattern if you have one, and technically makes it a bit thinner, but it shouldn't be bad or noticeable. So then I'm just going to stretch kind of out like that. And the more you peel up, the easier it will also be to stretch it. Just need to be careful that you don't stretch too much. So then I'm just going to go like that, and you'll see it just stretched around the corner like so. Now this kind of tab thing is back behind where we can't have it, so it's out of the way and good. And then once you start getting excess amounts with the extra that you gave yourself, you can start cutting it off also at this point. And I'm just going to leave these tabs until I'm all done, I think. Circles are a bit more difficult, so what I'm going to do is heat it up and just kind of work my thumb all the way around to get it to go in there, and then a start button can actually help us keep the edges in place there. And actually, I'm just going to put this in here to help it kind of like mold its permanent shape. So there we go, and you can see that I think it's looking pretty good. So you can see here, since this is a round piece, it does start to crease, so you'll just need to stretch that out. It's easier to stretch the bigger the piece you grab, so. But then there is also the higher chance of it deforming a larger section, so you just need to be careful. But just go nice and slow, don't be hasty, and it will come out looking great. Just going to grab another big section here. And work my way across. You can also just kind of smooth sections out also. I can compare it now, but I think that the all black makes it look just a bit better. Alright, let's continue. Now I'm going to do the left side of the main dashboard trim. Alright, now I'm going to do our first lay here. And actually the paper on here is what makes it so curvy. So taking it off, we'll leave it fairly straight. And so I'm actually going to just place it like this. There we go. Another clean installation. Alright, so it looks like I will be needing another roll. I got the wrong size. But so far, I've laid out the wrap on our main center console trim piece here. It was a bit short, so I'm just going to put a strip here on the end to cover the extra. And it does go against the grain, but I think since it'll be kind of under the center console, the radio and climate control area, it shouldn't be too noticeable, and if it is, it'll just look like a seam. I've also set out and put a template for the rest of our parts. So I have the ashtray and cigarette lighter area cover. I did take this piece of trim off before doing it, and then it's going to be pressed back in. And so I do need a new roll for the main door trim on the front, but I did start wrapping the rears. I also had the idea of doing what I did on my 1 series, which is actually wrapping this silver part on the gear selector, and I think it'll work pretty good. I'll just be kind of tucking it into that seam, and it seems to have gone pretty well on my 1 series. Alright, there's our first cutout, looking pretty good. So I don't know exactly what happened, stopped recording, but so far
Now I've got the center console trim all done and installed that little basket piece. Now we are moving on to the ashtray lid. Alright, now I'm going to get ready to put this plastic piece back in. So I'm just going to find where it is, heat it up, and push it all the way in, and then cut it. Look at that. Perfect. There is that piece done now. Just going to put it on like so. Alright, looks like this is still holding up fairly well. Look at that. I think it's looking pretty good. Look at that. Got the carbon fiber there. Got it up here. I think it's looking great so far. Alright, I'm now moving on to the rear door trim here. So this should be relatively easy. Then I'll move on to trying to get the steering wheel trim. Looking good so far. I'm gonna cut a bunch off of here after to help. Alright, now let's go install these two pieces. Alright, here we are, and now we just push it in. There we go, looking good on the left side here. And there's the right, equally as good looking. Alright, and now the last for today, and trickiest pieces I'm going to try doing, are the steering wheel button trims. So once again, I'm literally just going to have to be extremely careful and try to cut exactly around these buttons somehow. We'll see how that goes. Alright, here goes everything. Alright, and the final test. See if the airbag, when it's on, covers enough of this so it's not too noticeable. I think it will definitely have turned out better on the 1 Series though. So before putting it on completely, I think it looks very nice with the carbon. So there are definitely going to be some parts that I need to tuck in there. I don't think I'll need to do any heating, but just some tucking or maybe some cutting. But overall, I think the carbon on the steering wheel, apart from, you know, it's kind of coming up there just because it's so thin, I think overall it looks pretty good along with the rest of the interior. So that's how to wrap the interior trim on your vehicle, specifically here on the BMW E90. If you have any questions, put those in the comments, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the very next video.